What's up guys, Renat here and you're watching MMA Fight. Today we're going to be discussing one of the most anticipated fights of the year at UFC 320, Alex Pereira versus the new champion Magomed Ankalaev. UFC 320 is shaping up to be one of the best cards of the year, no doubt about it, and it's going to light a fire under UFC fans. There's so much interesting stuff here. 2 title fights, Old Man Emmett, Prochazka, Roundtree, Dvalishvili, and Corey Sandhagen. And of course, the main event, Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. It's a light heavyweight title rematch where these guys will step into the cage again to dispute who's the alpha male of the division. In the first fight, Pereira didn't really show what he's capable of. He didn't land his left hand. According to him, he wasn't ready and even considered pulling out of the fight. Yet, he still put on a competitive bout against Ankalaev, who everyone considers a great wrestler, though it's unclear why, since he hasn't really wrestled anyone besides Blachowicz and Craig, who actually put him to sleep. But Ankalaev, in turn, is preparing for his first title defense against a fired-up Pereira, who has shown us how he can come back. And of course, a rematch was obvious 6 months ago. And now there's a chance we'll see this fight on October 4th at UFC 320. We're really looking forward to it. But whether he can or can't is what we're going to break down today. Let's dive into this title rematch between Ankalaev and Pereira. The first installment of this saga wasn't exactly ultra exciting, but let's remember that remakes never quite replicate the original. So we definitely have every right to expect fireworks in the cage this time. Will Ankalaev usher in an era of dominant rule, or will Pereira, against all expectations, once again shout Shama? 6 months ago, there was a changing of the guard in the light heavyweight division. Magomed Ankalaev became the new UFC champion. The promotion couldn't not give Ankalaev a chance, and he got it. Some say that's precisely why the defense was scheduled during Ramadan, but Ankalaev agreed to the fight and outstruck his opponent. Ankalaev outstruck the Brazilian on the feet, winning by judge's decision. The fight wasn't exactly action-packed, but he got the win. This guy used to be modest, but now the promotion is making him talk. Or maybe his manager Ali Abdelaziz is doing it. It's hard to tell with them. Recently, Ankalaev and Pereira tried to understand each other through a phone translator. Ankalaev wanted to call Alex out because of one of his posts, but it all got resolved peacefully. Ankalaev is one of those classic "the cage will show, the fight will tell" type of fighters. Although to be fair, he sometimes tries to talk trash, but due to his natural modesty, it just doesn't come across. Ali Abdelaziz does his best to promote Magomed by writing on social media, but there's just too big a contrast between his Twitter and reality. This is probably the only case in MMA history where no one has any doubt that his SMM manager is the one doing the trash talk online for him. Zero media presence doesn't stop him from winning in the cage, but it will prevent him from staying in the history books and the fans' memories, even if he gets 3 or 4 title defenses. With his current media presence, Ankalaev will be forgotten as quickly as Conor forgot about wanting to make Ireland great again. The promotion, well, they just don't seem to care about Ankalaev. It's noticeable. Dana White gave up on building stars a long time ago, basically saying, "Figure it out yourselves if you want a belt plus blackjack and Octagon girls." And it's obvious. It's been half a year since Ankalaev became champion, and there's been no decent content or promotion. Not even any promotion, really. I recently saw bloggers criticizing the idea of trading Ankalaev for a PFL girl. To boost his media presence, Ankalaev needs some kind of principled rivalry with genuine mutual animosity, or spectacular finishes. The first is quite feasible at 105, and the second is definitely within his capabilities. He could start with Pereira. Pereira burst into the best league in the world just 4 years ago in Demise. I assume you mean a specific event or city here, maybe a typo for debuted. If it's a specific event, I'd keep it. Otherwise, I'd phrase it differently. And he's already a bona fide star veteran of 11 fights in the promotion with 7 knockouts and 2 belts. Frequent appearances, spectacular finishes, and a unique image have elevated Pereira's media profile so high that Bruce Buffer called Pereira the one and only this spring. And let me remind you, before this, Buffer only used that moniker for Jones and Conor. So you get the level, right? Alex's life is a ready-made script for another sports drama. A tough childhood, alcoholism, hard work, and salvation through sports. Even his UFC career is the result of cinematic twists of fate and circumstances. Pereira, assuming Michael Letus is a typo or referenced Pereira, spent an entire round laying on Pereira, and if the Brazilian hadn't landed that knee, he probably would have continued to lay on him, right up until 2025. And frankly, why would matchmakers care? Sean Strickland became the perfect springboard to a title shot, because who else besides our beloved Sean would charge at Pereira with an open face jabbing at him? And the fight with Adesanya is really the quintessence of Alex's life. Of course, Alex almost got knocked out, saved purely by the bell, then was laid on by a kicker, was losing for 4.5 rounds, and still landed his signature shot. Even the split decision against Blachowicz went Pereira's way. You can't just call that dumb luck. Alex himself caught and extinguished Izzy, successfully defended against wrestling, and didn't let Jan, who is definitely no amateur in grappling, do anything. Among the one and only trio, Alex's path in the UFC is closer to Conor's. Yes, a lot of things worked out favorably, but the main thing Pereira did himself. He won, he knocked people out, he put on a show. Pereira made the light heavyweight division at the very least super interesting. He definitely did that. The Brazilian is 38 years old, but firstly, for light heavyweights, that's a perfectly viable age. And secondly, Alex shows absolutely no signs of aging. His style doesn't particularly depend on speed and agility. You can't unlearn striking mastery. His timing is still there, his iron fists haven't gone anywhere, and his frame is still intact. Even in the event of a second loss to Ankalaev, Pereira's hype is unlikely to completely die down. You can easily imagine a couple of loud and exciting fights involving him at 205. Physically, Shama could probably even handle heavyweights, where he probably wouldn't even have to cut weight, and he could even fight for a belt there. But finding great fights for him is a piece of cake. So we're waiting and hoping to see a few more of Alex's fights. The guy knows how to command attention on screen. However, in the fight with Ankalaev, we won't write Pereira off either. He always has a chance for a knockout. 99% of the MMA community expected Ankalaev to wrestle Pereira, control him, and rain down ground and pound from the top. But Ankalaev surprised everyone and simply outstruck the two-time Glory champion. Ankalaev is disciplined on the feet, works a great jab, slips his head, and counterattacks. In terms of hand speed, Ankalaev is one of the best in the light heavyweight division, and that's the exact striking we saw in the first fight. However, if your opponent is Pereira and you're not Adesanya and the fight isn't at middleweight, you shouldn't rely solely on striking. No matter how cautious and smart Ankalaev is on the feet, the slightest lapse of concentration can cost him the win. Pereira, as a striker, is still top of the tops. His signature move is still very dangerous, and his natural instinct for that signature shot hasn't disappeared. Ankalaev's wrestling. He last wrestled 3 years ago in his fight with Blachowicz, dominating from the top, but not really doing anything significant. Even Dana left the arena out of boredom. For his last 4 fights, Magomed has only fought standing, but that clearly says nothing about his wrestling skills. Everyone praises Ankalaev's wrestling level, but we'll see if he can take Pereira down and inflict some ground and pound. Ankalaev built one of the longest winning streaks on his way to the championship in the light heavyweight division with 9 consecutive wins. And if we talk about his last title run, he had a whopping 13 fights without a loss. And Ankalaev isn't a kid anymore. He's 33 years old, which is prime age for 205. Ankalaev is 5 years older than Pereira, but he has significantly more experience in mixed martial arts. In our last breakdown, we mentioned low kick defense, but it didn't play a role in the fight and probably won't now. Ankalaev is a phenomenal all-rounder with no obvious weaknesses and a high fighter IQ. Stretching it a bit, you know who, but you know what I noticed is that Magomed doesn't have some ultimate ability. There's no overwhelmingly dominant wrestling or grappling, no ultimate striking, no ultra knockout punches, no imbalanced stamina and volume like Merab. Dvalishvili, Ankalaev doesn't demonstrate that. But Alex has at least one in the form of the touch of death, but that's basically it. Pereira is one of the best strikers in the best league in the world. Yes, he's not as flashy or diverse as the Spider, Silva, or Adesanya, but Alex's overall game can definitely be called elite of the elite. He has a great feel for distance, moves his head excellently, and uses his long reach effectively. Pereira's left hook has built up a collection of fighters he's knocked out, and it's still very much there. If Alex lands that left, even guys like Aspinall, Pavlovich, and Gane will be in trouble. In the first fight, Alex lost on the feet, was getting hit, and didn't work much. According to him, he was only at 40% of his capabilities, but it's likely he was either too afraid of the wrestling or simply poorly prepared and underestimated Ankalaev's striking. Maybe both, looking at both aspects. Pereira is still a huge physical specimen, with a big frame, long limbs, and an intimidating look. In the first fight, Shama defended well against wrestling and Ankalaev's clinch takedown attempts 12 times, but regardless, Alex's physicality hasn't gone anywhere. There's some chance that in similar exchanges,
Pereira can defend again, and something special could easily land on the exit from the clinch. Pereira has seen it all. The Brazilian will be entering his 8th title fight in the UFC, 5 of which he's won. Pereira has fought in many more championship bouts than Ankalaev. Holding onto the throne is much harder than conquering it. So if Ankalaev can't handle the pressure and goes for some kind of principle, like he absolutely wants to knock Pereira out, then Alex's coolness and composure might just make the difference. Wrestling. Alex has really improved his takedown defense. He defended excellently in the first fight, but overall, we'll still list his wrestling as a weakness. We haven't seen Alex wrestle anyone, especially in the context of Ankalaev. Well, basically, same as last time. Alex hits hard, but he also takes a lot of shots to the face. His chin isn't exactly Holloway level. In the first fight, Ankalaev landed significant punches, and in the rematch, he has every chance to outstrike him again, and maybe even knock Poatan out. In short, if Poatan doesn't get the knockout, he's very likely to lose on points. And the main weakness, Pereira already lost to Ankalaev 6 months ago. In that short amount of time, at 38 years old, it's impossible to change anything fundamentally. So most likely, we can expect pretty much the same Pereira we saw in the spring. Pereira is a superstar, and I sincerely hope the guy continues to grace us with his presence in the best league in the world for as long as possible. But in Vegas, we'll see what Poatan has prepared for us. Do not miss this event. UFC Vegas, Pereira versus Ankalaev. A grand show awaits us. Who do you think will win? Leave your comments and hit that like button, friends. See you later. Bye-bye.